Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be looking at this really interesting video essay that kind of brings together all these different ideas about like how we see the world and how we remember things. And I thought it was pretty fascinating, so I figured we'd dive in and see what we can uncover.
Yeah, it really does make you question what you think you know about seeing and remembering and how those two are even related.
Yeah, totally.
Like, it makes you kind of step back a bit.
For sure, for sure. So, okay, let's start with something super basic like color.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're looking at screens right now, and I'm sure you see plenty of yellow on your screen.
Yeah.
But get this, the screens we're looking at, they don't actually emit any yellow light.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think about it that way.
It is.
It all has to do with, like, how our eyes work.
Right.
Right? Like, we have these cone cells in our retinas that are sensitive to red, green, and blue light, but not yellow.
Okay, wait, so if there's no yellow light, how does my brain even know what yellow is supposed to look like?
Right. Well, it's a bit of a trick our brains play on us.
Really?
Yeah, so when red and green light hit our eyes at the same time, those red and green cone cells fire off signals to the brain, and our brain kind of puts two and two together and says, oh, red and green together. That must be yellow.
So my brain's basically like making up the experience of yellow, even though there's no actual yellow light.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
It shows just how much what we perceive as reality is really just our brain's interpretation of the world based on,
Right.
sensory input and past experiences.
That's what. Okay, hold on. So then what other like truths about the world might we be totally misinterpreting without even realizing it?
It really makes you wonder,
Yeah.
what else are we taking for granted?
Okay, well, speaking of things we think we know, lemons.
Right?
They're not just for lemonade anymore, apparently.
Yeah, remember those potato batteries you might have made back in school? Turns out you could do something similar with lemons.
Okay, but why would you want to make a lemon battery?
Well, this is where the art part comes in. The essay highlights this artist named Caleb Sharland, who did this really cool project where he illuminated a lamp using the power of 300 apples.
300 apples. That's dedication.
Yeah, for sure.
How does that even work?
It's kind of like those potato batteries.
Yeah.
You basically need two different metals, like zinc and copper, to create a flow of electrons. It's a chemical reaction that releases a tiny bit of electricity.
Yeah.
And you can do this with apples, lemons, potatoes.
Wow.
Sharland just took it to a whole other level.
Yeah, 11 hours to set it up and then 4 hours to get the photograph. That's
It's pretty incredible.
incredible.
But it's not just about, like, the technical achievement.
Right.
It's about, like, rethinking what we can do with natural materials and pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Totally. And, this video essay is full of all these other examples of artists playing with light and electricity and our perception of those things.
Oh, yeah. So,
Like Steve Shaheen's sculptures with those little bulb-headed figures trying to, like, plug themselves in.
Oh, yeah. Those are great.
Kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
Yeah, they really tap into, like, those anxieties we have around technology.
For sure.
Like always needing to be connected.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really interesting visual representation of that dependence.
Totally. And then there's that Merv Karaman piece, The Revitalizer, where you've got the light bulb and it's surrounded by this wax that melts and drips down. It's like mesmerizing almost.
Yeah, that one's really cool.
It's like a slow motion lava lamp or something.
And it's a great example of how art can capture, like, natural processes. This cycle of creation and destruction and the constant change happening all around us,
Right.
even on a tiny scale.
And then how can we forget that wooden light bulb? It's like this solid block of wood.
The Fukusada one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until you turn it on and then boom, there's light.
It's crazy how they do that.
It is. It's like magic or something. But it's cool though, right? It's like each of these artists is using light in a different way.
Yeah.
To like tell a story or evoke a feeling or just make us question what we think we know.
Exactly.
They're showing us the power of light, not just as illumination, but as a way to express ideas and emotions.
It makes you realize that light is so much more than we usually give it credit for.
Totally.
It's like this fundamental part of art and how we experience the world.
It really is.
But you know what else is interesting? How our brains try to make sense of all this visual information.
No, yeah, for sure.
This video essay also talks about these things called combos and, like, visual illusions and stuff.
Right, like Tang Yao Holmes' work.
Yeah.
He creates these mind-bending combos where he combines these seemingly random objects, like clear days and smoke.
Clear days.
And yeah, you got to see it. It's like he puts them together in this way that makes you completely rethink what both of those things even are.
Okay, now I'm really curious.
Yeah.
It's like those optical illusions where you see one thing and then your brain flips it and you see something else entirely?
Exactly. They play with our expectations with what we assume the world should look like.
And sometimes those assumptions cause us to miss things that are right in front of us.
Yeah.
Like that hidden baby picture
Yeah.
where you only see the couple at first,
Oh, right.
and then you realize there's a baby there too.
It's like our brains are filling in the blanks, making up a story based on what we think we should be seeing.
And that actually connects to a really interesting point the essay makes about collective memory.
Okay. How so?
So it brings up this idea that as time goes on, fewer and fewer people are around who actually remember specific events. You know?
Okay.
And the essay used this chart from XKCD
Oh, yeah.
to kind of illustrate this point about fading collective memory.
So it's like showing how our shared history basically shrinks with each generation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like if you think about collective memory as this like shared pool of memories and knowledge and experiences
Right.
that connects a group of people,
Yeah.
whether it's your family or your community or even a whole nation.
Okay.
The chart shows how that pool of shared memories inevitably gets smaller over time.
That makes sense. But then what happens when those memories are gone? Like, does that mean that part of our history is just lost forever?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the essay doesn't really give us a clear answer,
Right.
but it definitely makes us think about how important it is to like preserve and share our own individual stories,
Okay.
because those stories are what contribute to that larger tapestry of collective memory.
So it's not just about remembering like major historical events. It's
Right.
also about valuing the everyday experiences that make us who we are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every story, every memory, it all has the potential to teach us something,
Yeah.
to connect
Yeah.
that, to give us a different perspective on the world.
This is starting to make a lot of sense now. Like, we started by talking about how our brains construct our own reality
Right.
based on what our senses tell us.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about how all of our individual memories kind of come together to
Right.
create a larger shared understanding of the world.
It's like layers of perception.
It is layers of perception.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And the essay suggests that through art, through storytelling, through scientific inquiry even,
Okay.
we can capture and preserve these individual experiences
Mhm.
so they continue to have meaning for future generations.
Oh, okay. I'm with you. But to be honest, all this talk about like fading memories and shifting realities is kind of making my head spin.
I know it's a lot to take in.
It is. So,
Yeah.
like, what's the takeaway for me as a listener? Why should I care about any of this?
Because it's all part of what makes us human.
Okay.
Understanding how we perceive the world, how our memories shape our understanding of the world. It's
Mhm.
fundamental to who we are.
Right.
And even though individual memories might fade,
Yeah.
the act of sharing them keeps their impact alive.
I like that. So it's like by sharing our stories, we're not just like preserving the
Yeah.
past.
Exactly.
We're actively shaping the present and the future.
And there's so many ways to do that, from
Mhm.
those lemon-powered lamps to those mind-bending visual illusions. We've seen how artists use their creativity to explore these themes and make us think about them in new ways.
It's definitely both exciting and kind of scary to think about the power of our own experiences and how they fit into this bigger picture.
Yeah, but the essay encourages us to embrace that power,
Okay.
to be more mindful of the stories we tell
Mhm.
and the ways we contribute to that ongoing conversation about,
Right.
our shared past, present, and future.
I'm definitely feeling inspired to go out and like capture some of those stories, maybe even make some art of my own.
That's great.
But before I do that, I'm curious what you see as like the big so what of all this?
Okay.
If we consider that memory is fleeting and like our collective understanding of the world is always changing, like what can we actually do to make sure that those stories and experiences that shape us don't just disappear?
Well, I think it can be as simple as, sitting down with your grandparents and recording their stories,
Yeah.
or writing down those family stories that you grew up with,
Right.
or even putting together photo albums or digital archives.
Oh, those little things can be really powerful ways to hold on to pieces of the past.
It's funny you should say that. I've been meaning to sit down with my grandmother and record some of her stories.
Oh, that's great.
She's got some incredible memories of growing up in a totally different time.
It's those personal histories that are so important,
Yeah.
They all weave together to create this larger fabric of our collective understanding.
Right. But then preserving memory also goes beyond just those individual stories, too. right?
Oh, for sure.
Like engaging with history through museums or supporting historical societies,
Yeah.
even seeking out artists who explore themes of memory and collective experience.
Exactly.
It's all about keeping those conversations alive.
And speaking of artists, it's amazing how the artists featured in this video essay are doing just that.
Yeah.
They're taking these big abstract ideas about color and light and perception and memory,
Right.
and they're turning them into something tangible,
Yeah.
something we can actually see and experience.
That's the power of art, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah.
It can make the intangible feel real.
Yeah.
It can connect us to emotions and ideas in ways that words sometimes can't.
Like those Steve Shaheen sculptures with the light bulb heads.
Yeah.
They're playful, but there's also this underlying anxiety about our relationship with technology that I think a lot of people can relate to.
It's a reminder that art can be both entertaining and thought-provoking, you know?
Totally.
It can make us question our assumptions and challenge our perspectives
Yeah.
and ultimately help us see the world in new ways.
This whole deep dive has been a trip, that's for sure.
I know, it's a lot.
From fake yellow on our screens to hidden babies in photographs and like the shrinking timeline of our shared memories.
Yeah, it's all connected.
It is. It's amazing how all these seemingly random ideas actually connect back to this idea of how we perceive and understand the world around us.
It's a beautiful web of connections.
It is.
And it highlights how important it is to stay curious,
Yeah.
to always be looking for those hidden threads that tie things together.
I'm honestly feeling so inspired right now, not just to learn more,
That's great.
but to actually go out and do something, capture some memories, have those conversations, maybe even try making some art myself.
That's awesome.
And even though our individual memories may fade,
Yeah.
the act of sharing and preserving those stories allows them to have a ripple effect,
Absolutely.
shaping how we understand who we are and where we come from.
It's all part of the bigger picture.
Well said. Well, I think it's time to wrap up this incredible deep dive. Huge thanks to our expert for illuminating all these fascinating connections.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And to you, dear listener, keep those minds curious, those eyes open to new perspectives.
Yeah.
And don't forget to check out the artists we mentioned, Caleb Charlin, Steve Shaheen, Mert Harman, Tanya Hung.
They're all doing amazing work.
They really are. And before we sign off, be sure to follow @TweetSauce for more thought-provoking content.
Yes, definitely.
Until next time, happy diving.
Yeah.